It's great, isn't it? It will be great. All right.
I hope Facebook's working. It says connection available. It's green.
Green?
So is that a
means
question?
go.
Is it an option? Is it working?
I'm gonna trust it.
Your phone says it's working.
Thank you, phone, for letting me know we're live now. Great. So, welcome Friday Night Live.
And we are live.
Yeah, we are.
Barely, but we're alive.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
All the things.
How's life?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's even better now that we're together here, recording episodes later.
Yes.
Very exciting. So, we're laughing because I look like an extra in Jurassic Park. I, number one, love dinosaurs, so that doesn't bother me at all. But, so I put together this outfit, leopard, and then I put this on. I was like, yeah, this looks great. I look like a safari/dinosaur paleontologist. I'm an extra on Jurassic Park, and I like it.
Your words, not mine. You look very fashionable.
I like it, so who says paleontologists can't be hot?
I'm here for you. You know what?
What's that going to segue into?
I really think one time we should record this setup. I know we talked about this probably at least once.
It's just because it's...
If you wonder what we
cluster, like every time it's the leaning tower of
it's art.
It really is. It's a sculpture. We are actually sculptors.
Oh yeah. If you wonder what we do right before we hit start, it's like
we would take a picture, but we can't show you because we're using both of our phones to do the lives. But it's amazing.
It is amazing.
We'll have to have a behind the scenes one day.
You know what else is amazing?
What?
Our episode.
Yes. Randy did an amazing job. He came on and interviewed like a boss. It was great. I love that he was super vulnerable. So he talked about something he struggled with that a lot of people struggle with, but it's taboo to talk about, especially in church. And he definitely said it in church. So good for you. And that's awesome. We need people to lead from the front.
Yeah, we talked about how in some churches the leaders might try to portray this perfection, and so then it teaches the congregation not to do your best, but put on a perfect front, and that's not really the message you're trying to send.
Right, especially if we're trying to grow and heal, be vulnerable with each other. It's going to be hard / impossible to do that if we're not being willing to share. So one of the main topics, well, we talked about several things in the interview, but one of the ones that we want to talk about tonight was how to be vulnerable with your significant other. So Randy dives deep into this, uses biblical references, how he does this. And
personal anecdotes.
Yeah.
Did I say that?
Anecdotes.
That word.
But yeah, so he talks about how he and Marlo interact, but also how he's handled it professionally with couples counseling or anything like that. So
I really just appreciated how he went into being vulnerable deepens your intimacy with your partner. Yeah. But one thing we talked about too is sometimes we aren't intimate or vulnerable with our partner because of the way they react. Yeah. When we're being vulnerable.
So
like, gave us that's silly.
Yeah.
Or like, why are you so defensive or upset about that? It didn't matter.
Right. So he handled all of our what if questions. So Farron, at one point you were like, okay, what if I'm vulnerable with my spouse? And they say back like, that's not a big deal. I don't know why you.
Yeah.
But on the other end of that is you were stressing about that for a day, a week, however long. You finally get the guts to say it, and it's kind of blown off. So how to work through that, how to respond with that. We talked about how setting expectations beforehand is a good idea. It's really hard to set a fight rule whenever you're in the middle of a fight.
Yes. So, and Brooke, you have a very good blog post about
thanks, friend.
Fighting fairly.
Yeah, it's the rules for fair fighting that me and Morgan have set up. I'll talk about one of the rules. So we each kind of have, there's 5 rules that we kind of go through, like no breakup language, so no divorce, no I need a break, no any of that stuff. It's all in the article. One rule for him in particular is not raising his voice. He's an 8 on the Enneagram, so his voice is already loud, so whenever he's excited or pumped up or into a moment, it just gets louder quicker, and that's just natural for him. So I have to like, hey, well, number 2, you. But my rule for me is, because I'm a 1, so resentment is a big issue with me. So I'll be like, remember that one time 7 years ago, whenever. So he's the one who's like, what's done is done. You forgave that, so no. So keeping each other in check, that's kind of what the whole thing is about.
Yeah, so to tie that back then is, you know, if you don't like to express how you're feeling and be vulnerable with your spouse because every time they play it off like it's not a big deal, a time that you're not going to share something, you might say, hey, the other night I was trying to have a conversation with you about something that really meant a lot to me, and when you responded by downplaying it, you may have been trying to be supportive and tell me you don't want me to be upset about it, but the way that comes across to me is that I'm wrong or stupid for having those thoughts and feelings.
Right, like if you're already an anxious person, they might be trying to de-escalate you, like it's okay, this is normal, whenever you're trying to get a little more feedback other than blowing it off. So
And so then, you know, having wise counsel is someone you can go to and say, hey, I'm trying to be vulnerable with my spouse. This is what they're saying. Isn't that terrible? And they're like, well, what if they're actually trying to help you, but they're saying all the wrong things?
Yes.
So sometimes, you know, with your spouse, if you can just say, when I'm trying to share something vulnerable, I don't need you to necessarily fix it if you'll just listen.
Yeah.
Or I need encouragement. So communicating, I think sometimes this, I'll speak for myself, but I think some women out there too, we want the men to just know what we need, but you will be far less disappointed if you can communicate your needs, because they do. They want to do what you want, but sometimes they need some clarification.
Yeah, I don't know any mind readers. Do you know any mind readers? I don't. Besides, you know, good old JC.
Yeah.
Not Chazé. So there's that. Oh,
lots of really good wisdom on being vulnerable, picking the right people to be vulnerable with.
I wanted to add something. With spouse and picking the right people.
Yeah.
So, you know how when you don't know you're in a fight and then like a week later they're like, I was mad at you for that one thing, huh? So, hypothetically, this happened to my friend.
Yeah.
Not us. But he had called his friend and was like, am I way off on this? And the friend was like, yes, your wife is right. And so that helped him kind of...
Yes, he being Randy. So Randy was turning to a friend and saying...
Right.
saying, hey, my wife did this crazy thing. And then the guy was like, hate to break it to you, but you were wrong. And he's like, what? Oh.
So we'll just say that was Randy.
Randy did talk about it too.
You're right. All that to say, if you're not praying for your spouse's friends, you need to start doing that.
Yes.
So pray for your spouse's friend to speak life into them, to guide them to the truth.
Yeah.
Some days you're going to be wrong, sometimes they're going to be wrong, but good golly,
right.
if we don't have... You're right. Farron's always right. Sorry.
No.
You said it first.
You were thinking it.
You said it. Oh my gosh.
White girls.
Yeah,
The movie.
White chicks.
White chicks. We are white girls. We're talking about what?
If you haven't seen that movie, we're not necessarily recommending it because this is Christian personal growth.
It's inappropriate.
Pray before,
Don't
during, and
watch
after. Oh my gosh. Okay, anyway. So that was how to talk to your significant other. Shout out, Jenny. Thanks for watching. The next point we want to talk about is we have 2 episodes coming up. So we're going to have our last in the vulnerability series. And we're adding on a listener's choice. So, Farron, why don't you talk about these because you led these interviews.
Okay, so the first episode to wrap up the vulnerability series is my aunt, but she's not my blood aunt. Her name's Janet.
Mom's best friend.
Mom's best friend, yes, like sisters from other misters. No, but she went back to pursue her dream career after having kids. They were older, middle school age. And so she just shares, you know, what her life story went. It wasn't, you know, necessarily like high school, college, get your dream job, finish it until you retire. So it's really inspiring just to hear what she went through, and she's very honest about it. She's not one of those that's like, if you want it, just do it and get it done, suck it up. She's very vulnerable about the whole process, so I appreciated that.
Talks about mom guilt, which I know we don't deal with.
What kids?
Oh my gosh.
We laughed not to cry.
Yes.
And then the second one is a listener's choice, and it's actually on dyslexia. I have a friend named Nancy who's very familiar with dyslexia. she's dyslexic herself. She has a son who has dyslexia. She's been out to speak at her school, and all of the parents and teachers that attended wanted more. And so that is what we're giving the listeners. They ask, they shall receive. But if you have concerns about your child who has some type of learning disability, or they're struggling in school and you're really not sure if it's developmentally appropriate, or maybe you want to figure out what the next steps are to see if you can get them more help, it's a really good episode. If you know someone with dyslexia, maybe your spouse or a friend, it's also good information just to kind of
eye-opening,
get some insight on what their day-to-day looks like.
Yes.
So.
I also like that y'all kind of busted some myths in the interview too, because there were some common misconceptions that I've heard multiple people say about dyslexia, just lumping it in together, like, oh, well, if you have dyslexia, this is what it is, whenever it's a whole spectrum.
It's very complicated, yes. Yeah. And so definitely look for that one. Share it. Again, if you have family members that maybe don't understand dyslexia, it's going to be really interesting.
Or even if you have not necessarily dyslexia, but something else, this could even just open eyes, I think, because a lot of people are internally struggling and they don't know how to put the words to it. Like, this is what I'm struggling with, but you can't see it or understand it. So there's that.
Well, guys, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. I say it all the time to her. She hates it.
I love it. But yes, so we're about to record some episodes for our upcoming mini-series, which is Everything is Figure-Outable by Marie Forleo. And it's a good combination of I love Jesus, but I cuss a little. So if that's not your thing, we won't cuss on the podcast. So if you want to know the content but not necessarily want to read the book, we'll read it for you. We'll talk about it. Yeah. That way you don't have to.
We'll keep it PG.
Yep. 13.
Oh.
Is everyone over 17? Can we just kind of... No? All right. Ready, Freddie?
Ask your parents first.
Hey, Gam Gam, can I read this book?
All right.
I went with Gam Gam, not common anymore. All right.
I don't know where to... Oh, there's the end. Okay.
So I'm going to go this way. And you
One,
go... Where are you going? But we got to save that one.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to go to this one. You go to that one.